Welcome to Omni Academy. This is Maria, and today we are starting our seventh lecture on the development of eye. In the last lecture, we studied the development of ciliary body, and in today's lecture, we will be studying the development of retina. So let's start our today's lecture. So let's start the development of retina with the source of development of retina. So the source for the development of retina is the optic cup. As I mentioned in the second lecture of the development of eye that the optic cup has three main derivatives, and what these derivatives are: number 1 iris, number 2 ciliary body, and number 3 retina. We have discussed iris and ciliary body in our previous lectures, and in today's lecture we will be studying the retina. So before starting the process for the development of retina, let's just talk about the layers of the retina first. As I mentioned in the first lecture that the retina is divided into two layers. Number 1 the pigmented layer, and number 2 the neural layer. The pigmented layer is the outermost layer of the retina, and the neural layer is the innermost layer of the retina. The neural layer is composed of two components. Number 1 pars optica retini, and number 2 pars ceca retini. Pars optica retini is making up posterior 4/5 of the neural layer of retina, but the pars ceca retini is making up anterior 1/5 of the neural layer of retina. It is called pars optica retini because this part of the neural layer of retina is associated with optics or vision because this part is light sensitive. Pars ceca retini is further divided into two parts. Number 1 pars iridica retini, and number 2 pars ciliaris retini. Pars iridica retini is covering the posterior surface of the iris, or it is present behind the iris. The pars ciliaris retini is covering the posterior surface of the ciliary body, or it is present behind the ciliary body. So these are the layers of the retina. Let me explain this with the help of diagram. So this is another diagram of a well-developed eye. You can see that this black layer is the pigmented layer of the retina. It is the outermost layer of the retina. And beneath the pigmented layer is present the neural layer of the retina. So this is the neural layer of the retina. As I mentioned early in the lecture that the neural layer of the retina is again divided into anterior 1/5, which is the pars ceca retini. So this area which is facing the iris and the ciliary body is the pars ceca retini. This area. And the posterior 4/5 of the neural layer of retina is pars optica retini. So this is pars optica retini, which is light sensitive. The pars ceca retini is again composed of two parts. The one which is present behind the iris, this area, is the pars iridica retini. This is pars iridica retini. And the part which is covering or is present beside the ciliary body, this one is the pars ciliaris retini. So this is pars ciliaris retini. So these are the layers of the retina. So let's now move to the process for the development of retina. As I mentioned early in the lecture that the source for the development of retina is the optic cup. So the first step in the formation of retina is the formation of the optic cup. You can see in this diagram that the optic cup is formed as a result of invagination of the optic vesicle. So the optic cup has two layers. This is the outer layer of the optic cup and this is the inner layer of the optic cup. And between the two layers there is a space known as intraretinal space. So the first step is the formation of the optic cup and the second step is the differentiation of the layers of the optic cup into different layers of retina. So the outer layer of the optic cup differentiates into the pigmented layer of the retina. So you can see in this diagram that this is the outer layer of the optic cup and you can see here that this outer layer of the optic cup has now become the pigmented layer. The inner layer of the optic cup differentiates into the neural layer of retina. This is the inner layer of the optic cup. Here you can see that this inner layer of the optic cup has now become the neural layer of the retina. So the pigmented layer of the retina is formed as a result of contribution by the outer layer of the optic cup and the neural layer of retina is formed as a result of contribution by the inner layer of the optic cup. So this was the second step in the development of retina. The third step in the development of retina is the closure of the intraretinal space. This space, the intraretinal space, obliterates by the seventh week, and after the seventh week, the two layers of the retina, the pigmented and the neural layer, are very close to each other, or you can say that they are attached to each other. So this was the third step in the formation of retina. The fourth step in the formation of retina is the differentiation of the neural layer of the retina into two parts. Number one, pars optica retini and number two, pars ceca retini. Pars optica retini is the light sensitive portion and it is composed of rods, cones, bipolar cells and ganglion cells. Pars ceca retini is non-sensitive portion and it is covering the ciliary body and the iris. So let's now move to the pars optica retini. So let's start pars optica retini. The pars optica retini is making up posterior 4/5 of the neural layer of retina. Pars optica retini elongates rapidly and develop into three layers of cells. So the pars optica retini after differentiation is divided into three layers of cells. What these layers are: number one, photoreceptive cell layer, number two, mental layer, number three, marginal or fibrous layer. Photoreceptive cell layer is closer to the pigmented layer of retina and this layer has cells called rods and cones. So the rods and cones are making up the photoreceptive cell layer of pars optica retini. Second layer is the mental layer which contains neurons such as bipolar and ganglion cells. And this layer also contains some supporting cells. So the bipolar ganglion cells and the supporting cells are making up the mental layer of the pars optica retini. Third layer is the marginal or the fibrous layer. This layer contains only axons of ganglion cells that exit then through the optic disc as optic stalk and become optic nerve. This differentiation of the pars optica retini into the three layers completes by the 8th month of gestation. So let me explain these layers of pars optica retini with the help of diagram. So this is diagram of pars optica retini. You can see that this is the photoreceptive cell layer of pars optica retini, because this layer contains rods and cones. This is the mental layer of the pars optica retinae because this layer contains bipolar cells and ganglion cells. And this is the marginal or the fibrous layer of the pars optica retinae because this layer contains the axons of the ganglion cells. So these are the layers of the pars optica retinae. So now let's move to the pars ceca retinae. So let's now discuss pars ceca retinae. Pars ceca retinae is making up anterior one-fifth of the neural layer of retina. As it is part of neural layer of retina, so the source for the development of pars ceca retinae is similar to the source for the development of neural layer of retina, which is the inner layer of the optic cup. But the difference is that the inner layer of the optic cup, which is giving rise to the neural layer of retina, only anterior one-fifth of that layer is giving rise to the pars ceca retinae, and the rest is giving rise to the pars optica retinae. Pars ceca retinae remains one cell thick, and the parts of it are number 1 pars iridica retinae and number 2 pars ciliaris retinae. Pars iridica retinae is behind the iris or it is covering the posterior aspect of the iris. Pars ciliaris retinae is behind the ciliary body or it is covering the posterior aspect of the ciliary body as I mentioned early in the lecture. So let me just summarize the process of development of retina. So the first step in the development of retina is the formation of the optic cup. Second step is the differentiation of the layers of optic cup into different layers of retina. The outer layer of the optic cup differentiates into the pigmented layer of retina. The inner layer of the optic cup differentiates into the neural layer of retina. Third step is the closure or obliteration of intraretinal space by the 7th week. Fourth step is the differentiation of the neural layer of retina into two layers, number 1 pars optica retinae and number 2 pars ceca retinae. The pars ceca retinae has two parts. The part which is behind the iris is called pars iridica retinae and the part which is behind the ciliary body is called the pars ciliaris retinae. The pars optica retinae differentiates into three layers. Number 1, photoreceptive cell layer which contains rods and cones and is closer to the pigmented layer of retina. Number 2, the mental layer which contains ganglion and bipolar cells as well as some supporting cells. Number 3, marginal or fibrous layer which contains axons of ganglion cells. So this is the process of development of retina. So this was today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will be studying the development of optic nerve. So see you in next lecture.